we're back. Welcome back. Maybe you got a snack, maybe not. Either way, back to math. So this says, once upon a time, Alan played Xbox for more than 5 hours. Now you're gonna stop. Alan played Xbox more than 5 hours. We're going to write an inequality that shows some amount of time more than 5 hours. If we don't know the information, that's when we incorporate our variables. So we know some amount is going to be our variable. So I'm just going to use A for amount. More than 5. So A has to be more than 5. So I'm going to underline more than 5. To see, like, the alligator mouth is going to A because A is more than 5. So now I can continue. Jacob played Xbox for less than 10 hours. So I know that since we're doing inequalities, that less than is going to be important. So I'm going to underline less than, I'm going to underline my 10. And then it says to stop again. Because now I'm going to write an inequality that shows this. So this is Alan's inequality. So now we're going to do Jacob's.
So do a J.
So J will be my variable. So J is less than 10 hours. So I know that J is something smaller than 10. So I have J is less than 10. The reason that it is not greater than or equal to and less than or equal to is because the problem says more than and less than rather than more than or equal to or less than or equal to.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are students getting hung up on which way to make the signs for these?
No, they're so far, but this is still relatively new, this is only the mid-unit, but so far everybody seems to be doing pretty good with that.
Okay, because Ms. Kenny was telling me that some of her students were having a hard time determining which direction the sign went into. And having taught second grade,
Yeah.
if I had said Jacob had less than 10 hours, I would have put 1 dot by the J and then 2 dots by the 10 and then connected them. Because that's the way it's taught in second grade as a Common Core skill. So if you have trouble determining which way they go, Jacob has less than the 10 and then they connect the dots.
So that's super cool. So for me, in all honesty, I was briefly confused by that. I was like, dots, I don't know dots. But I could totally see the strategy. So if that strategy works, whichever one has more, like in this one, Alan had more than 5 hours. So just like Ms. Phillips said,
You got
the 2 dots went by Alan, and then the 1 dot was less, so it went by 5, and then you just connect it. Boom, and you're done. That's pretty cool. And then this one, the J is less, so it gets the 1 dot while the 10 gets the 2 dots. Is that right for that strategy, Ms. Phillips?
Yes. And that's just if you get lost in all the words.
Yeah, which obviously you'll see, like, this problem has a lot of words. You're gonna see problems that have a lot of words, and that's why I put stop in there, because I wanted you to be able to, like, take it apart, kind of, and, like, chunk it. So now I've written both of these inequalities. So now the next one says, if both Jacob and Alan played Xbox for the same amount of time, what is the least amount of time they could have been playing? Ms. Phillips, do you know?
Wait a second, I think I need a number line, because, wait, okay, so Alan has
We need a number
more than
line.
5,
I can
so we
provide
can
a
put
line.
a 5 on there. And Jacob has
I'm gonna
less
count by
than
twos.
10. So it's gonna be between 5 and 10.
Okay.
Yes?
So I have this number line. I counted by 2s because it's
Yeah.
faster. So I know that I'm gonna plot Alan's point first. Alan is
So open circle, yes?
correct. So I'm gonna erase that part of the line. I'm gonna do an open circle because it doesn't include 5. And now for Jacob, I'm going to do right over the 10. So this is Alan, I'm gonna put that over the top so you can see it better. This is Alan and this is Jacob. So, what we are going to do now is figure out the least amount of time they could have played. And we are going to, if we wanted to plot these arrows, it would, A is greater, so it would go this way. And then J is less, so it would go that way. So there's the time that it would overlap. So, could they both have played 9 hours? Yeah. Could they have played 8 hours? Yeah. Could they have played 6 hours? Yes. But is 6 the least amount of time they could have played? No. They could have played for 5 hours
And 9/10? Oh,
and 1
crisis.
second. They could have played for 5 hours and 0.001 seconds. So what would an inequality be that could show that they played for 5 hours and the littlest of 1 second? It would basically just be like a double inequality, and it would represent the same thing. You would just combine Alan is greater than 5, but we know that Jacob is less than 10. So between these two, we could just put that Alan being greater than 5 and Jacob being less than 10 would have to be anything between 5 and 10, not including, so you could just keep this plot on the number line. Your test is not going to ask you to do this. Your test is just going to ask you basically for the least amount of time. So the double inequalities you actually don't even get to until 7th grade. But you could write it as a double inequality if you wanted to, but you will not have to. Questions?
What is the answer?
The answer is like 5 and 1 second.
Okay.
So, but honestly, that's all you're gonna have to do for this question. So when you see it on the test, this is all you're gonna have to do.
So is that one gonna be a multiple choice, or is it gonna be one that you put
It's
the
gonna be
answer
a
in?
short answer. So as long as you can explain to me, basically the same thing that I just explained to you, how it could be anything, any amount of time, less than 10 and greater than 5. But if it says the least, if you can just explain to me that it could be 5 hours and 1/100th of a second, I will take that. It's going to be a short answer on the test.
Okay.
So the next one is relatively similar. So the next one says Malia has at least 7 scrunchies, which I feel like is probably pretty accurate. If C represents the number of scrunchies Malia has, then which inequality would represent this situation? So the things I know from this problem, I know at least, I know 7, and I know C. So I'm gonna go ahead and write C, and I'm gonna write 7. So now all we have to do is figure out what's gonna go in between this. So if C is at least 7, if we do that dot thing, we know that C, if it says at least, C has to be more. And then 7 would be the smallest thing, because it's at least 7, and then we got the 2 dots by C. First time ever doing the dot strategy. So, but I like it. So now I'm just gonna connect those dots, and we know that's gonna have to be an inequality that looks like this. What we are missing though, for this one, says at least 7. Could she have exactly 7?
Yes, so we know with
Yes.
certainty that she has 7.
So we have to add that symbol to it to show that because she has at least 7, it could be more, but she could also have exactly 7. So for this one, A would be our answer. Make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. And now, number 7 says, how will you graph negative k is greater than 5? Hint, remember you can't have a negative variable. Since this variable cannot be negative, what we are going to have to do is get this negative sign gone, but we can't just erase it. So we're gonna have to solve it. So remember, next to any variable is an understood coefficient of 1. So if we want to get rid of a negative 1, we're going to have to multiply it by a negative 1. But in this situation, since it is multiplication, we're technically going to be dividing by negative 1. So we would divide by negative 1 on both sides, and then we would end up with k is greater than negative 5. And if we already have k is greater than negative 5, we just did that up earlier. So your number line is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. So on your number line, k is greater than negative 5. So I know my circle is going to be open over the negative 5, and then it's going to be going to the right because k is everything greater. Any questions on this one?
No, I just want to reiterate that the k is on the left side of the, is it an equation?
It's an inequality.
The k is on the left side of the inequality, and it's got the arrow pointing in the direction it needs to go because it's on the left side.
That's true. That makes sense. So the next one says it is not, it might look like it's related to this one. It's actually not. It's a totally own question. On your test for this one, you'll have answer choices. And what you're going to have is it's going to have this, and it's going to have a bunch of different number lines, and you're going to need to know which one to pick. So you're not going to have to draw your own, but if you can draw your own, think of how easy it's going to be when you see the answers. So number 8 says, explain how you would write an inequality based on the information on a number line. What that means, and again, you're going to have answer choices for this one on your test as well. If you have a number line that looks like 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, and I've got, let's do an open circle right here, and then an arrow pointing to the right. We know if it's an open, well, we know we're going to have a variable because we don't know what our answer is, and we don't know which two numbers we're comparing. So I'm going to have the variable n for number line, and then the circle is open, and the arrow is going to the right. But before that, we can just see what number. So I have something that is between negative 1 and negative 2. It is directly halfway between. So that means that the number is going to be negative 1 and 5 tenths, negative 1.5, negative 1 and 1/2. It's all the same thing. And now I know that my symbol is not going to have a line underneath it because it's not also equal to, because it's an open circle, and the arrow is going to the right. That means that n would represent everything greater than negative 1.5. So, and see, just like the arrow's going this way, the symbol's going this way. We're all going this way. So again, on your test, you will have answer choices that have a bunch of inequalities, and it will say, like, basically which one matches this expression, or you will have to, like, it'll give you a number line, you'll have to write the inequality goes with it. Make sense? Cool. Almost halfway done. Okay, so these next couple are writing a word problem. You will have to write a word problem on your test. These are open-ended questions. So there's multiple correct ways to do it, but there's also explicitly wrong ways to do it. So for this one, it says write a word problem that uses -10 and -11, or +11, my bad, in a context of real world situation. So it could be as simple as saying, that because like your checkbooks, you could say, I owed Miss Riley $10, which would be -10 in the checkbook. And then, if you owe me $10, or you have -$10 in your checkbook, and then you earned, so I'm gonna write, but I, is from y'all's point of view, earned is generally going to be positive, or it's going to rise your value. If you're super far negative, you can earn $5 and still be negative, but it's still gonna like raise your value. So I earned, if we want our answer to be +11, think about how much you're gonna have to earn. First, you gotta get back to 0, so you're gonna have to have 10. And then to get from 10 to 11, you add 11. So you're going to need to earn $21. So, but I earned $21. How much did I have? And now Ms. Phillips is watching, so there's probably like some bad grammar going on here, but could be wrong. Maybe there's good grammar. I don't know so much about grammar. But this would be an acceptable problem, because how much did you have? It would end up being $11 total, and this would be a real world situation, especially if you say, you could owe me in the checkbook in class, because that's your real life, or you could say like, I owe the bank, and you could pretend you're like a grown up and you owe the bank money. Questions on this one?
No, but for me visually, I would have to go back to the number line, and I would have to plot that -10, and then do, in second grade, we did open-ended number lines, so I would do the hop to the 0, which would be a +10, then a hop to the next 10, which would be another +10, and then a small hop to the 1, which would be a +1, and add them together.
Yeah.
But that's just because we all know I came from second grade, and that's my second grade tool that I like to use.
I think that's a great strategy. In 6th grade, they kind of want us to move away from that.
Okay.
But if you need to plot a number line, that will work every single time, and that is a great way to see it visually.
Well, I understand wanting to move away from things, but I know that that's something I will always have to have in my toolbox.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it is super helpful, because then you can see and you can kind of double check yourself while you're working. So we can do that for this one. It says that uses -5 in a real world situation, and this one adds to explain the meaning of 0 in this situation. So if I say outside it was 0 degrees Celsius, then it dropped, became lower 5 degrees Celsius. What is the new temp?
Should it be -5 degrees Celsius if it dropped?
Yes, that's our answer. Because we're at 0 degrees. So in this problem, the meaning of 0, because it's 0 degrees Celsius, would just mean that it's freezing outside, like the actual freezing temperature. But if it drops 5, because that's absolute value.
Oh, okay, it drops. I see what you're saying. I'm reading it dropped to 5 degrees Celsius, and that's not what it says.
Yes, it dropped 5 degrees Celsius. So if we draw a number line, and we have 0, -1. Is this in the frame?
Yes.
-3, -4, -5. We can see, and then 1, 2, and so on. If we start at 0 degrees, and then we drop absolute value of 5. So we drop 5 spaces, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see that we land at -5 degrees.
This makes me think of your lesson plan where they went outside and played around, they did the relay race with the number line.
It was good times. So, what time are we at on the video, Ms.
20
Phelps?
minutes,
How many?
20.
Okay, so we're gonna have a part 3. But wait, there's more. I'll see y'all in a minute.